What's up guys, Alvaro here. Welcome to the Bilingual Stock Market channel again. On this channel we talk about the markets and we do it in English and Spanish as well, so you can pick your preferred language. And in this video, and as I do it Mondays through Thursdays, I want to make a quick stock market update. So I want to break down some technicals going over the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100 and the Russell 2000 because the markets got very ugly today. So let's try to figure out what could potentially happen in the markets from a technical standpoint. And at the end of the video, I am going to break down from a technical standpoint 3 stocks that in tomorrow's trading session are going to be on the very top of my personal watch list. And I also want to go over the earnings reports of Robinhood and NVIDIA. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. And what can I tell you guys? Take a look at this. A red day all across the board. Russell 2000 went down 0.83%. I think that this is the 6th losing day in a row for the Russell. I have to double check on that, but I think that this is a 6-day losing streak for the Russell 2000. Nasdaq went down 0.89%, S&P 500 down 1.07%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average went down 1.08%. And what led to this bloodbath? Well, at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we had the Fed Minutes, which is pretty much a document that the Federal Reserve releases, and that in summary pretty much talks about what was discussed during the Federal Open Market Committee that took place last month. And the Federal Reserve said pretty much that they are getting to some sort of an agreement in order to start tapering before this year ends. And the Federal Reserve also said that the Delta variant represents a risk for the full reopening of the economy. And the reaction of the markets as soon as the markets listened to the word tapering was this. So we saw a massive red day all across the board. The VIX went up 20.44%, and I think that we saw a bit of a push higher in the case of the 10-year Treasury yield. Not a lot. It is still trading below 1.30%. So what could potentially happen from a technical standpoint? So the S&P 500 went down today 1.07%, and it closed today's trading session at 4,400, flat, just like that. So I am going to zoom in here on the 4-hour chart, and we broke 2 very important areas of lower support. The first one at 44.40 and the second one at 44.20. And the bulls managed to find support at 4,400, and the 50 SMA on the 4-hour chart was also broken to the downside. If we take a look at the relative strength index of the S&P 500, it is at 38 points. So the S&P still has more room to the downside before it is needed for some sort of relief rally, because we are not seeing the S&P in oversold territory quite yet. So we closed today's trading session at 4,400. So if tomorrow we happen to open above 4,400, then obviously the most important area of lower support for the bulls is going to be 4,400. We are talking about a previous area of lower support that already acted as such for the S&P 500 back on August 4th, and we are also talking about a former all-time high that also acted as overhead resistance back in mid-July. If the bulls happen to open below 4,400, then obviously 4,400 is going to act as overhead resistance, and in that case, the most important areas of lower support are going to be 4,370. 4,370 is a former area of lower support that already acted as such for the S&P 500 back on August 3rd, and it also did it back on July 27. And if that area of lower support happens to be broken to the downside, then the other important area of lower support that I am going to be looking at is going to be 4,360. 4360 already acted as a lower support for the bulls back on July 22nd, and we are also talking about a former area of overhead resistance that acted as such back in the beginning of July, and we are also obviously talking about a former all-time high in the S&P 500. So can we go lower? Yeah, I would say that we can go even lower. I mean, taking into account that the RSI, that the relative strength index of the S&P is at 38 points. Let's say that tomorrow we happen to have another bloodbath. So what would be the worst case scenario in tomorrow's trading session? 4,300? Can we see a drop of 100 points? Can the bulls or the bears take the S&P 500 down to the 180 SMA on the 4-hour chart? With the RSI already being at 38 points, is very unlikely, guys. So I think that we are going, if tomorrow we happen to see another red day, we are very likely to see some sort of support at either 4370 or 4360, the other area of lower support that I already told you guys about. And in the case of the Nasdaq 100, the lower support of, let me pull up here the 4-hour chart. So in the case of the Nasdaq 100, two very important areas of lower support were broken to the downside today. So let me, okay, there you go. Now let me zoom in a bit more over here. Okay, there you go. So the first important area of lower support that was broken to the downside today, and mind you, the Nasdaq 100 went down today 0.97%, and it closed today's trading session at 14,857 points. So the bulls couldn't hold 15,000 points, and they couldn't hold either 14,900 points. And tomorrow, obviously, guys, if we happen to open the trading session below 14,900 points, that area is going to act as overhead resistance. And in that case, 14,800 points is going to act as the main area of lower support. We are getting a bit away from the 50 SMA on the 4-hour chart, which is at 15,045 points. And is the Nasdaq 100 looking too ugly? Yeah, it is looking very ugly. And I told you, if you guys remember, let me pull up here the 5-day, 5-minute chart, that I said this in yesterday's video, guys, and I happened to be right, that the bears, from a technical standpoint, were gaining steam. They were getting stronger because the lower support of 15,000 points was being broken every single day, and every single day the bears were taking the Nasdaq 100 even lower. And yeah, obviously they finally managed to break 14,900 points to the downside. In terms of the relative strength index of the Nasdaq 100, it is at 35 points, so we could easily see another leg down tomorrow, in which case, and as I already told you, the most important area of lower support is going to be 14,800 points. And now I want to take a look at the Russell 2000, guys, and listen up here, because I know that a lot of bears out there are getting very excited with the move with the push to the downside that we saw today. So the Russell 2000 closed today's trading session slightly below a very important area of lower support that I have been calling out here in the channel at 2,160 points. The Russell went down 0.84% and it closed today's trading session at 2,158 points. That implies that the Russell closed today's trading session slightly below the lower line of this horizontal channel in which the Russell has been trading since early February. And mind you guys, the Russell as of now is trading almost 9% off its highs. So let's say that today a 10% correction started out in the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. Do you mean to tell me that the Russell is going to drop 10% along with the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100? No fucking way. Not gonna happen. If today we actually are seeing the early days of a corrective process in the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. That implies that the Russell 2000 led the way down. And that also implies that the Russell 2000 is going to lead the way up. So watch out for small caps, guys, for most of the small cap stocks out there. If this red day that we saw today is actually the beginning of a corrective process in both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100, because in that case the Russell 2000 doesn't have much room to the downside, and at some point this index and most of the small cap stocks are going to lead the way up once the correction ends. Remember that you heard that here on the Bilingual Stock Market channel first. And now let's go ahead and take a look at Robinhood, which is reporting earnings today. I didn't know that, guys. Actually, I found out that Robinhood is reporting earnings today a few minutes ago. So let me see. Let me pull up here. Let me see the 1 hour chart, and let me pull the live news tab to see if the earnings are already out. And is the result out? Let me see. Robinhood market shares returned lower after the company reported Q2 earnings result. The company reported average revenue per user, ARPU, of $112, down from $115 year over year. And Robinhood market swings to Q2 loss despite revenue boost. So let me check over here. And Robinhood reported a Q2 loss, a loss for the second quarter of this year of $2.16 per diluted share, compared with net income of 0.09 per share a year earlier. So yeah, they definitely reported worse than expected earnings. Revenue came in at $565 million, and from $244 million a year ago. Analysts had projected $559 million. So they beat on revenue, and the figures that they are reporting when it comes to average revenue per user disappointed. And on top of that, they are losing more money compared with the money that they actually made last year. So they are losing more money than last year, and they beat on revenue. So I still need to take a deeper look into this earnings report. And let me pull up here the 1 day, 1 minute, and what's the reaction of the market. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah, Robinhood is down as of now. It's down a lot, actually, guys. I mean, it went down. It closed today's trading session at $49, and as of now, it is trading at $46. So we are seeing over here something like an 8% drop in the case of Robinhood. And let me pull up here the 4 hour chart. And if tomorrow, guys, I happen to see Robinhood paying a visit down to $43, which is an area of lower support that already acted as such for Robinhood back on August 3rd. And if I happen to confirm from a technical standpoint that that area, that level is providing a good support, I could be picking up 30 or 40 shares of Robinhood, in which case my price target is going to be the next important area of overhead resistance at $52. $52 is an area of overhead resistance in which the bulls of Robinhood already felt today. They also felt back on August 11th, and we are also talking about a former area of lower support that already acted as such for Robinhood back on June. Sorry guys, August. In June, Robinhood was not even trading publicly. So this area acted as a lower support back on August 6th and also back on August 4th. If I were able to take a trade like the one that I am describing here, guys, I could be potentially locking in a profit of almost 17%. So watch out tomorrow for Robinhood markets paying a visit down to $43 per share. And now let's go ahead and take a look at another company that was supposed to report earnings today, NVIDIA. So what happened in the... NVIDIA is down a lot, guys. It seems like, let me pull up here the 1 day, 1 minute. No, it isn't down. I mean, it went down it went down something like, let me see, like 4%. It visited $185 and now it is bouncing back up and it is trading pretty much near the price at which NVIDIA closed today's trading session. NVIDIA went down today 2.15% and it closed today's trading session at $190.40. So let me pull up here the live news tab and let's see what happened with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA shares are trading lower after the company reported Q2 earnings result. But what are the results? Let me see. Come on, Thinkorswim. So EPS came in at $1.04, beating the estimate of $1.02, and sales came in at $6.5 billion, beating the estimate of $6.33 billion. So yeah, NVIDIA beat on earnings all across the board in both EPS and sales. However, it was not an, outstanding revenue and EPS report. So that's why I think that the stock of this company isn't doing much after hours. So let me pull up here the 4-hour chart and what could potentially happen tomorrow with NVIDIA. Remember that NVIDIA is a stock that depends a lot on whatever the tech sector does. So we have to keep a close watch on the Nasdaq 100 in order to decide upon a potential trade on NVIDIA. But if tomorrow, guys, I think that if I happen to see NVIDIA bursting above $192 approximately, which is a previous area of lower support that already acted as such for NVIDIA back on August 17, and also back on August 3rd, and also back on June 28th. But we are also talking about a former area of overhead resistance in which the bulls of NVIDIA failed back on June 18. Then at that price, I am going to feel a bit tempted in order to pick up some shares of NVIDIA, $192. In which case, and this is pretty much the same trading plan that I described in yesterday's video, my price target is going to be the next important area of resistance near $206, which is a previous area of overhead resistance in which the bulls of NVIDIA already failed on 1, 2, and 3 occasions before. If I could take this trade the way that I am describing it, picking up some shares at $192 and obviously always keeping a close watch on the Nasdaq 100, I could be potentially locking in a profit of almost 6%. So NVIDIA reported decent earnings, okay? The earnings report of NVIDIA was not mind-blowing by any stretch of the imagination. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the third stock of this video, Moderna. And oh boy, is Moderna the talk of the town nowadays? Yes, it is. So Moderna went down today 0.76% and it closed today's trading session at $398.80. And today I took a phenomenal day trade. Phenomenal. Like former President Trump would have said. So I picked up 30 shares of Moderna this morning at $393. And this was a 7-minute trade, guys. I think that these are the $300 that I have earned, the faster in my entire life. So I picked up 30 shares at $393, paying $11,790, and I sold out of those 30 shares, as I just said, like 7 or, I don't know, 8 minutes later at $403.16, being paid $12,094. So I ended up making over here something like $300 in literally 7 or 8 minutes. So tomorrow, no doubt about it, guys, Moderna is going to be on the very top of my personal watch list. And as I just said, Moderna closed today's trading session at $398. So if tomorrow, guys, and you know that I put my money where my mouth is, if tomorrow Moderna happens to pay another visit down to the lower support of $392, I am going to be for sure picking up 20 or 30 more shares of Moderna. $392 is a previous area of lower support that already acted as such for Moderna back on August 6th. It also did it back on August 5th, and we are also talking about a former area of overhead resistance in which the bulls of Moderna failed on August 3rd. And mind you guys, take a look at how the bulls of Moderna fell today right at the 50 SMA on the 4-hour chart. If the bulls of Moderna happen to be able to take on this 50 SMA on the 4-hour chart on good volume and momentum, I think that the stock of this pharmaceutical company has a fair chance of filling the gap up to the next important area of overhead resistance near $455. Guys, watch out for Moderna. So if I happen to take this trade the way that I am describing it, picking up some shares at $392 and selling out of those shares at the most immediate area of overhead resistance near the 50 SMA on the 4-hour chart at $410, I could be potentially locking in a profit of 4%. And what happens if the bulls take on this 50 SMA on the 4-hour chart? What happens if I can hold my shares up to the other important area of overhead resistance that I just told you about near $455? Well, in that case, I could be potentially locking in a profit of almost 13%. So watch out tomorrow for Moderna paying a visit down to $392-ish, finding a good support over there and then bouncing back up. And the last stock of this video is going to be Jinko Solar, ticker symbol JKS. And in the case of Jinko, guys, I purchased 50 shares today at an average price of $41.80 approximately. So let me show you the position that I opened today on Jinko Solar. So this morning I purchased 50 shares at an average cost of $41.88. And as of now, I have an unrealized loss of $33. So what's my plan when it comes to the position that I just showed you? Well, I have basically two plans, guys. My first plan would be purchasing 50 more shares of Jinko if the stock of this Chinese company happens to pay a visit to the next important area of lower support at $38. $38 is an area of lower support that already acted as such for Jinko back in the beginning of June and also back in mid-March. So at that price, I am going to be picking up 50 more shares and pay close attention to the relative strength index of the stock of this company on the 4-hour chart. It is at 28 points. That implies that Jinko Solar is already in oversold territory, and that is going to increase the likelihood of the bulls of Jinko Solar to find support at a previous area of lower support and then bounce back up. If that doesn't happen, if Jinko happens to respect the actual or the current area of lower support near $42. We closed today's trading session at $41.21, and after hours we are pretty much trading at $42. Well, $42 is an important area from a technical standpoint, because we are talking about a former area of overhead resistance in which the bulls of Jinko failed back on June 21st, and they also failed back on June 2nd. And we are also talking about a former area of lower support that already acted as such for Jinko back in mid-March. So if the stock of this company starts to consolidate slightly above $42, I could be purchasing 50 more shares in order to ride them up to the next important area of overhead resistance for Jinko near $51. If I happen to close this trade the way that I am describing it, locking in the profit at $51-ish with an average cost of $42 or $42.50, I could be potentially locking in a profit of almost 16%. And something that we need to keep a close watch on is this death cross that unfolded on the 4-hour chart. So this death cross unfolded in yesterday's trading session, and ever since, or since yesterday, Jinko Solar has dropped almost 13%. So that's a good chunk. So we could potentially make the case that this death cross already affected Jinko in a negative way, and that could be it. So watch out for Jinko Solar in tomorrow's trading session, either finding a good support slightly above $42 and filling the gap up to the $51-ish, or maybe paying a visit to the next important area of lower support at $38. $8. And with Jinko Solar, I am going to wrap up the video. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for hanging out with me once again. Remember and keep in mind, guys, that here on the Bilingual Stock Market channel, we are posting stock market update videos Mondays through Thursdays, 3 or 4 hours after the market closes. So if you want to get all of the notifications of all of our videos in a timely manner, you have to be subscribed to the channel, but you also need to activate the notification bell right up there. Follow us on Instagram as well, guys, at Bilingual Stock Market. On our Instagram account, we are posting news and information on a daily basis. And remember that this is the Bilingual Stock Market channel, the YouTube channel in which we talk about the markets, but we do it in English and Spanish as well, so you can pick your preferred language. But most importantly, this is the YouTube channel in which we know that the wonderful world of Wall Street is not for geniuses, it is for entrepreneurs just like you guys and myself. My name is Alvaro, and I will see you guys tomorrow once again. Peace out.